thanks for coming for James. This is James Wards. Hi, James Wards.
Hey, one.
I told you guys James has come today all the way from the deep south. He's taken the day off work, so is his partner, to come and be here for you guys, because he can do more justice to esports and what's happening in this part of the sports industry, multiplayer gaming and that sort of thing, than what I can. James wears so many hats. I don't really know how to introduce him, but I think I told you guys that one of his hats was Esports Federation New Zealand and the people who are trying to push that forward, but also has his own startup company, which is not your day job, is it?
Yeah, I've got a few things keeping me busy.
Yeah, so James has an actual job, and then he has a startup company as well, and he's bringing it to Dunedin, which you'll see by the logo on his jacket. I've given you some information about it, but these are multiplayer gaming events. So instead of you guys sitting at home playing all of your games, turning it into a competitive sports social experience. So we're going to run this really informally. James is going to talk a bit about what he does, and then I'm going to ask him questions that I know are relevant to what you guys need for the theory of sports, and then you can ask him whatever you want. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. Over to you, James.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, informally being the key word. There's really no method to my madness. A lot of things I do are rather unconventional, but like I say, you just got to roll up your sleeves and get out there and get it done. I'm a bit nervous, more or less, being stepping foot in a university. I think the last thing my high school teacher said when I left high school, walked out the door halfway through the year, she said, "Good luck, because you won't be stepping foot inside any universities with your, your qualifications." So it's a real honour and privilege to be here today to chat to you all. Yeah, I'd like you to all leave with something of some use that I'll talk about today. But yeah, so long story short, I run a multiplayer video gaming organisation called Your Corps. It originally started as Gore Corps because I just was originally based in Gore. Essentially what it was and how it started, it's basically a multi-player video gaming group that I come across a whole heap of refurbished X laptops for about, $2,000. We got like 30 of them, real old 15-year-old laptops. And the reason I got them was because a few of my mates, we were getting a bit, lost for our wits out in Gore. There's not a lot of stuff to do down there, as you can possibly imagine. But yeah, I just wanted to put something on because we're all getting a bit lethargic and a bit depressed when it comes to things on the weekends. A lot of us weren't big sports players. We weren't really interested in grassroots rugby and stuff like that. Although I had played rugby for a lot of years, since I was like 5, 6 years old, right through to high school. It sort of lost its interest. And a lot of the closer friends I was making were all interested in, a lot of the gaming and stuff like that. So we did have a LAN group at high school, but when all that fell through, it's sort of, we all got into a lot of trouble. We started getting into, booze and drugs, stuff like that, which, is generally what a lot of people find themselves getting into trouble, things like that, vehicles. Because, yeah, we're just at that funny age where there's not a lot of stuff to keep us interested or engaged. So yeah, we kept going on like that until I decided to put something on for myself, inviting my friends around to my house to do a bit of gaming. I was just getting a few computers and putting them together, and before you know it, I had about 15, 20 people out of my tiny house. So I looked at getting venues organised in Gore, and yeah, it was a huge hit. We started having regular events with 20, 30 fellas my age. And yeah, before you knew it, all the kids were going to get involved as well. So we started putting 2 events on, and yeah, every second weekend we were having a full house and absolute blast. So we were on a massive fundraising campaign too, because it was getting to a certain stage where it was getting way too busy. I've been a dairy farmer for like 7 years. That's all. I left high school and all I knew how to do was yeah, just milk cows. But I had a lot of time to think, and I just couldn't wait to go home at the end of the day and play video games. So it's real. Awesome opportunity to actually potentially do this for a full-time career as well. Because at the end of the day, I was just trying to put it on for my mates. We drive a lot of incentives to just put something on for my friends and a lot of stuff like that. I'll run through my portfolio anyway, because I've actually got a digital edition of it on here. So basically, yeah, that was an introduction as to who I am there. So this is a portfolio I take around a lot of schools and stuff like that. We've got a lot of praise from the community over as of late as well. We've even got like a raving review from the Gore Mayor as well, who's seen a lot of our work and effect. So your letters from parents and stuff as well. I'm just trying to really, it's been well, I've only been doing this for like 2 years and a lot's been happening, so it's real hard to sort of put it all into one tiny little thing. But at the end of the day, I'm a community man. Like, I don't do this for like, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme for me. Like, I just want to be able to do what I do because I know I'm having a positive influence on the local community. I get a lot of kids coming in that, you know, maybe don't have a lot of positive role models in their lives. They're getting picked on at school or something like that. They're introverted. They've got an opportunity. They come in to our events like real quiet and find it difficult to make friends because they're quite introverted. But before like the first event they've been to, before that's over, like they're just already great mates with everyone in the room. So I get letters like this from parents, which is, you know, gives me the incentive to continue doing what I'm doing. I have to skin off my own back. Like, I don't get a lot of, I have had a lot of community support recently, but when we started, we weren't getting a heck of a lot. So I was doing it sort of from my own passion and my own interest for it and the fun I was having with my own friends. But to provide that opportunity for others is really fantastic as well. And especially getting stuff like this when your parents are saying things like, you know, my child has gone from being depressed about going to school to now they can't wait because all the Gore Corps fellas are there. It's really, really fantastic to get stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why I continue doing what I'm doing. We've been going around to a lot of schools as well. It's funny in Southland because like you go, the moment you mention video games and the potential of bringing it to school, they're just like, they refuse to see any positive influence with that, revolving any sort of community initiative or whatever. But other schools and other more forward-thinking, progressive teachers, which is really, really great, to see them in positions like that, they are all over it. Like, you know, we've had great opportunities going to some of the schools in Southland as well, which is brilliant. So it's, it helps a lot to get letters of referral from people like that as well. So what is your corps anyway? So yeah, as I've mentioned, we basically put on these multiplayer video gaming events, but primarily we're a social development group as well, and that was the way I was wanting to take it initially, because I think that can take you, it's also opening a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for me as well going forward, not as to tackle, I mentioned earlier that like I'm involved with the esports, but that's not the primary initiative here. To me, I see the esports thing and the potential for that to attract advertisers and get more revenue coming in would just be a means to push this social development platform further where it needs to go. So I'm real keen to tackle that revenue, but at its heart, we're a social development group and we use the multiplayer video gaming and all that stuff as the carrot on the stick to get people to come on down. So just a quick question, how many of you actually play video games or have an interest in video games and stuff like that? Okay, neat to see, neat to see. Can I ask what it's like, what are you guys jamming at the moment? Like, what's number one spot at the moment? Yeah, fantastic. So the great thing is, like when we started, we had like 15-year-old laptops and we could only play like 15, 20-year-old games. But we managed to pull through, dust them off and get something going. But we went on a massive fundraising campaign and now we've got like $50,000 worth of new computers that can run anything on ultra graphics. We even designed our own computers just to make, like it's like a screen built into the side of a normal desktop computer case. So it's like the one-stop shop. You just put it on a table, one power cable and away you go. So yeah, that's your corps basically. What made us start, I sort of touched base on that as well. You know, a few of us just getting depressed and stuff, and I didn't put my foot down until I actually lost a couple of friends myself personally to suicide. And it wasn't until then that I thought, you know, I've got to do something for the local fellas down here. I'd been in and out of bouts of depression myself, just doing the same thing for too long, just asking yourself what it's all worth. And I knew that there were going to be other fellas out there feeling the same way. So yeah, down in Southland too, we've got a big issue with like mental health awareness. You know, the fellas feel as though they're too tough to talk about their feelings or issues going on in their lives. So if you feel as though you've got all the boys in the same room, got a sense of camaraderie, playing multiplayer video games is a real good sort of conversation topic, sort of to open up and, you know, feel as though you've been mates with people for a lot longer. If you get along with people really well, you feel as though, you know, you can talk about the bigger issues going on, you know what I mean? So it's really, really brilliant. So how do we do what we do it? So we're a fully mobile operation that we take around. We basically look for community venues to keep the overhead pretty low. So the beauty of being a community organisation as well is that there is funding that go to places to build community venues, and offer subsidy for other people to put on constructive events like that for local communities. So I feel as though we fit that ticket in that bill pretty well. So we've had amazing opportunities. That's a picture actually there when we were at Edge of the World Expo recently in Dunedin. That was their first year doing that, and they were really pleased to have us there, and we were equally as honoured to be a part of it as well, which was fantastic. So if you didn't go, you missed out. So there's going to be another one. So I certainly hope to see a lot of you there next time. But it's really, really neat. It's basically the alternative to Armageddon Expo, but it's like Dunedin's own, version of it, which was really brilliant. There's a wee picture there too of one of our computers as well. The unfortunate thing, all our branding's like all black, so it is tricky sometimes to get it visually there, but it is there, believe it or not. So yeah, I touched on our primary incentives and motives as well. We're really trying to get out there and tackle things like depression and suicide awareness and stuff like that, drug and alcohol addiction. We believe as though if we put constructive events on the weekends in New Zealand communities, feel as though people turn to the drink and the booze and stuff like that simply because there's no other constructive alternatives. I think you can have a lot of wholesome fun that doesn't involve alcohol. The trouble is it's sometimes hard to find, especially at that age where like people are just sort of, younger sort of teenagers and they are just turning 18. They feel as though it's like, they finally hit that age, it's tear it up. But we stayed away from it for a long time when we had our land group at the school. But as soon as that rug was ripped out from underneath us, we just felt as though there was nothing else for us. So that's just what everyone else was doing. And the fortunate thing is that's just the way we followed suit. So yeah, I touched base on that as well. That's actually a photo from Dunedin when there was an article in the I can't remember what year, the Otago Daily Times. They talk about the issues with drug and alcohol abuse and the binge drinking culture in Dunedin. Sorry to be a buzzkill and ruin your weekends, but like it's good in moderation. But but like I say, you don't have to do it every weekend. And I'm sure if there was other constructive stuff to do and still make friends and hang out with people, I think a lot of people would certainly sign up to do that, especially if you're really passionate about gaming or that sort of culture. It's a great place to meet like-minded people in the same place. So your services we provide, the public weekend events and the after-school holiday programs. We get involved with a lot of after-school stuff as well. That's just a breakdown on that as well. There's a really neat photo there of one of our local constables there who was getting involved with the school holiday program. It's funny because a lot of the sort of kids in some communities, they're real F the police and all the things like that sort of carry on. So it was really sort of neat to get Policey Plot on for a spin around the racetrack with them, and they thought he was a really, really cool dude, an approachable dude after that, which was really, really neat. He's actually a bit of a gamer himself, which I thought was fantastic as well. So that was a really neat photo to get. But yeah, we've had a lot of support from our local businesses around our local community. I've actually gone in there and tried to talk them into it. So it's funny when you're going into like a primarily agricultural sort of business that sells like seed and farm chemicals and stuff like that, and you're asking them to sponsor a multiplayer video gaming group. But I did manage to talk them into it, and they're really, really pleased to support something that's having a positive influence on the local youth around the community, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's really how we've sort of gone about it, because initially I feel as though sometimes this thing I'm doing is a bit ahead of its time, and it's really hard to approach conventional methods of sources of funding. They sort of don't know what it is or where it sort of fits, or it's not our responsibility, it's someone else's. So I just keep getting passed around until eventually I just go, you know what, I could have just got my car and gone away and done it the hard way and actually got somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it's not to discourage me potentially doing it down the track when obviously the rest of the country sort of catches up with what's going on with the gaming culture in New Zealand. So as mentioned before on one of my cards, I got to refer to it myself as well because it is a bit of a mouthful. But basically I got a phone call one day and it was these fellas that had heard about me. I'm not sure where they heard about it. But they basically offered me the opportunity to be the head of they wanted to start a regional subcommittee here in Southland. They're the Esports Federation in New Zealand, and they're sort of based in the North Island where there is a lot more happening regarding esports and stuff like that up there. They've even got like a high school sports league as well where they've got kids in their computer labs, teenagers in their computer labs or whatever, that they sort of do some competitions and send them around. But like I say, my responsibility is to get it down here in Southland. I'm not entirely 100% sure what's all going on up there. I am relatively aware. But like I say, it's my responsibility to sort of try get the South Island to sort of catch up. So yeah, I'd like to think I'm doing my job relatively well. But yeah, I mean, it was a really good opportunity to be just offered that opportunity, and I said, oh hell yeah dude, I'll do it. Something else with business cards. So yeah, I'm really pleased to get involved with these fellas too. They have a website too if you're ever interested to check them out. I think if you're wanting to know what the current situation is of esports, the stage of esports in New Zealand, I think these guys might be the best place to sort of follow on Facebook, as well as my own page as well, obviously. But like I say, they're probably your two best bets. Yeah, so operational history, we did a big shindig in, what was it, the ILT Kids Zone for like 6 days in a row. It was absolutely chaos. We were at the edge of the World Expo as well, which was for 2 days. I think we had about 7,500 people come through, which was really, really brilliant. So next one's going to be bigger too. So yeah, we do a lot of community fundraisers as well. We get involved with any opportunity to help out in the local community, just to break down that misconception that video games can't be a sort of pillar of strength in the community, that no good can sort of come from it. I mean, if we're getting involved with getting out amongst it and getting involved with fundraisers and helping to raise money and awareness for a greater cause, I mean, I can't see anything wrong with that. So, and yeah, we did all the Christmas parades too, which is pretty funny. We're in the Dunedin one as well, just to, they asked us if we wanted to do it, so I said, why not? So we did it, and yeah, it was a pretty funny day out. So yeah, some photos here, hanging out with the kids, different schools. Yeah, like I say, all this has happened in like 2 years, so it's been pretty flat out, which is really, really brilliant. So I'm excited to see what happens going forward in the future too. We go around and do a lot of guest lectures at schools as well, because a lot of the teachers find it pretty cool to talk to somebody, that's just not your sort of regular dude. Kind of take that as a compliment. A lot of people tell me that, so I think that's a good thing as far as I'm aware. But yeah, squares aren't generally that fascinating, but I'll take it as a compliment. But we were also got a rock interview as well when the rock came to Gore. I spotted them hanging out the Thomas Green, and I'd heard that they were coming to Gore to do like a shit towns in New Zealand thing. So I thought, yeah, of course, the first place they would stop at would be Gore. We have a bit of a track record for ourselves, but like I say, I spotted them and I'm like, oh look, if they're looking for something interesting going on in Gore, I'm not going to let these buggers get away without having a chat to me. So no, they were really, really cool dudes. They gave me an awesome opportunity to go in for a chat with them, and yeah, it was really, really fantastic. And somebody must have been listening, because when I finished the interview, I was even getting texts as far as Christchurch saying, they really appreciate what we've got going on down here, which is really, really fantastic. If you're ever interested in seeing the video too, it's actually on our website, if you want to check it out as well, which is really, really brilliant. So yeah, you can see that for yourself if you want. So our goal going forward, as I mentioned with the community initiatives, we're looking to start this thing grassroots. I feel as though with esports and New Zealand as a whole, it's kind of like esports is becoming a really, really big industry. But the thing is with New Zealand is that unless we innovate and pioneer something new, the alternative is to sort of sit and wait for it to come to us. And I feel as though we may fall into a trap where we're just waiting for this big industry to sort of come to our shores, and it might not necessarily come as quickly as we hope it would. So I'm trying to take it from the other angle and sort of build it up from the ground up, starting with grassroots, local clubs. Sort of, we're looking to get, we've already got these mascots around the country. So we've got like the Gore sheep, the Dunedin albatross, Christchurch, we've got the horse, Queenstown Kia, Oamaru's got the blue penguin, Invercargill with the tuatara, and Timaru with the wallabies. They've got a massive wallaby problem up there, but hey, there's plenty of them up there, so I had to pick something, so that's what they got. A lot of these towns actually haven't got national official animals for their towns, so by the time we roll through, that's just what they've got from now on, I'd say. So it's been finalised. But going forward, we'd like to get something straight through, right from Invercargill all the way up to the North Island. And going forward, we'd like to get these towns and cities sort of competing against each other. So yeah, that's that. But I can talk a lot more about this. We may come back to it, but I'll tear through the rest of this. Oh, that's the back of the thing anyway. So while I'm there, just talk about the plans going forward regarding esports. So I'm not going to be able to run all these either, so I'm trying to set up to do this full time. I'm sort of 50-50 still on the farm at home. I'm just keeping an eye on like the cows in the shed and stuff, but I'd like to be full time, be able to disappear for a couple of weeks. So I'm away today and I'm already getting phone calls from like LIC about herd testing and all that, and I'm just like, you know. But anyway, the phone's glued to the side of my head, so, but yeah, what a time to be alive. You can do most of your career on a phone now, which is really, really brilliant. But yeah, like I say, we're designing this to sort of be a franchise model. So anybody can sort of basically come along and say, hey, look, you know, I want to basically take over one of your corpses, and they basically run the whole thing. It's theirs. I just basically take 10% and keep moving on and starting as many of them as I can. So basically you'd run your own team and your own outfit like that. So the idea to generate revenue is the same as with esports currently, is you're trying to attract advertisers. If you're doing all your broadcasting and stuff on like streaming and on the internet and stuff like that, you're going to be accumulating a lot of marketing sort of data, which is crucial. You look at these big companies like Google and Facebook, how are they generating all their income? How are they the most expensive corporations on the planet? It all comes down to targeted marketing and advertising. That's all they're selling. It's the only way. You're using all these services for free, but they're selling your advertising analytics to big companies, big corporations to target products and services directly to you. So that's how they're generating all their money. So advertising, you cannot underestimate advertising and sponsorships. You look at like the All Blacks and other professional sports teams as well. They're all covered in all the sponsorship stuff. That's where generally most of the money's coming from, as far as I'm aware. But like I say, that's the only reason why we've gotten as far as we have, is because we've approached local businesses and offered them the opportunity to advertise with us. And yeah, they couldn't hesitate. They said it was fantastic. So that's generally what we're going to be looking at doing, setting up streaming at our events, looking for advertising sponsors and things like that going forward. So that's the plan going ahead anyway. I could just go through my couple of notes here regarding a couple of facts in esports currently. So yeah, I was told to imagine you guys have come to a alien planet and you guys have got absolutely no idea what esports is. So who has absolutely no idea what sort of esports is? Or yeah, so esports, if you picture it, is basically, you know, competitive video gaming. A lot of the video games now, especially the big hit video games like Counter-Strike and PUBG and all that stuff, you know, they're team-based games. You have 10 people versus 10 people. For example, we've got 20 computers in our room, and basically, you know, it'll be 10 kids versus 10 kids. They're basically on blue team and red team, and there'll be objectives, or they've got to work together to sort of take out the opponents. That's basically the same setting. Imagine like a rugby game between two teams. You've got a digital sort of field now where people are, you know, competing. A lot of people would argue that it's, you know, arguably a competitive sport, but like some of the things, I play video games and I'm not very good at it. I mean, I guess you could call me a professional gamer because I get paid to do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm any bloody good at it. But yeah, some of the things you see these guys do in competitive games, it's just inhuman. Like the reaction time, the accuracy, the speed, the strategy, it's absolutely insane. It's almost like godlike, you know, especially when you play them and you get an idea about, you know, what level their skill is sort of at. So there's a big battle to get it into the likes of the Olympics. I think the likes of China and places like that, they are pushing to get it into the Olympics. But the primary concern is that the majority of the competitive video games that they're playing all involve guns and shooting people, which is starting to become a bit of an issue. But there are a lot of games out there, like you mentioned, like Dota, which is fantastic. It's more of a fantasy sort of based heroes with swords and magic and things like that, which is a bit more tame. But like I say, these are issues going forward if the industry wants to become more mature and be accepted in the places like the Olympic Committee, that, you know, we will need to sort of redesign it and things like that. But yeah, as for anything else, like for example, with Dota 2, as we mentioned, they've paid out over $60 million US the last few years in prize money alone to people competing. Even the largest single pool anyone took home was 25.5 million in 2018. By comparison, like the 2018 PGA Golf Tour US Open was only 12 mil. So the prize pool for esports already in its infancy was double that of like a traditional sport like the PGA US Open. So yeah, in the US, esports will have more viewers than every professional sports league out there, bar the NFL, because that's huge. But that was the only thing that was dwarfing it. NFL's huge, but it is diminishing. Even what's interesting as well, I thought, was that there's a lot of high-profile people that have had successful careers in the NFL. They've actually, generally when they retire from playing the sport themselves, they get involved with running their own team. But these dudes here, like Rich Fox, for example, he's a 3-time NBA champion, played for the Lakers and Celtics, and now he owns his own esports team. I saw a documentary with that guy, and you've got all these video gamers, a team of video gamers that fly around in their own private jet all over the world to compete in these esport competitions. So it doesn't sound like a bad deal to me. Even a fella called Roger Saffold, he was offensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams. He owns his own esports team as well. So it is getting a lot more high-profile interest, which is fantastic to see. But like I say, it's still in its infancy and it's still got a long way to go. But like I say, the results it's already demonstrating is pretty inspiring. So it's brilliant.
I should probably butt in there, James, actually, and just to reinforce what you're saying. The reason I know James is through my husband, which most people will know played rugby, but when he retired he became a rugby agent, so trying to find talent. And one of the areas his agency, like a lot, were moving into was trying to find professional esports players, because there's so much more money to be made managing esports players because the sponsorship and the prize money is so much bigger. Maybe not here, maybe the viewerships aren't big here, but globally it's huge. So that's how I know who you are.
Yeah.
Through
fantastic.
traditional sports agencies looking to esports to find the future stars to manage to make them money. So
it's interesting on that note too, to give you a sort of an idea of what stage esports is at in New Zealand. People from the North Island are having to come down to Gore to have that conversation about esports, which is kind of bizarre. A lot of people think they're pulling their leg when they send them from Auckland down to Gore to have a conversation about esports. They're like, is this some kind of, it's not April Fools, okay, so that's ruled that one out. But no, it's really, really brilliant. They come down and they're not disappointed. We have a great catch up, and we it's inspiring. Like, don't be disheartened by the fact that an industry is still in its infancy, and it's like, the smaller it is, the more opportunity it's going to provide you to get to the top or more involved or a more key sort of role in it. If you're going to target an oversaturated sort of market, you've really got to pull a rabbit out of the hat in order to be someone significant. If you're going to tackle an industry of any kind that's still relatively new, I think that's the best sort of time to sort of tackle something like that. If you're interested in the digital arts, movies or video games and stuff like that, there's really no more of an exciting industry to be in, such as like this. You've got the competitive side of things, you could be looking at the content involved, video game development, all that sort of thing. So yeah, if you guys are whizzes on computers, like, it's definitely, whether it's team management, event management, it's all these things in once, So the bigger I get, I'm not going to be able to do all these things by myself anymore. Event promotion, I make all the posters, I've got to get all these posters out here. How are you going to keep track of all the money coming in for ticket sales, advertising, contacting these sponsors, organising these sponsorship deals. There are so many different levels to it that basically it would be a full-time job in its own, So there's so many different opportunities in it, which is brilliant. I'm running out of things to talk about, actually. But
we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to ask you some questions.
Perfect.
So first one that is related to, I know you're all on your essay, which is due on Friday, but assignment 2, when you get together this week in tutorials and you're thinking about, they've been asked by the Highlanders to come up with ideas to try and make the stadium experience or the team as a whole move beyond rugby and traditional fans and become more of a live experience, because that's the challenge the rugby stadiums face in the next 10 years, that they need to get people to want to come to live events. Esports is one that's moving into stadiums for its events, and there's some big teams that are buying their own esports teams, right, in America?
Yeah.
Is there anyone thinking of doing that in New Zealand? Is there any stadiums that are running these multiplayer events yet that you know of?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a few happening in Auckland. I don't think there's anything as big as there are broadcasting facilities, I think there's been a massive spend on infrastructure at the, I think it's the Sky Arena, Sky Tower, something to do with that, but they've got a broadcasting facility where they've set up these amazing computer setups with the facilities to broadcast. I think if you'll notice looking through the Sky TV as well, you'll notice there's a couple of esports channels on that. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like Jinx TV or something like that. but occasionally you'll flick through and there's like a game of Dota happening or something like that. So it is slowly starting to establish itself in New Zealand. But like I say, in any field in the technology sector, it'll start, the seed's been planted and it just takes off. Like it could be nationwide in the next 5 to 10 years, no doubt at all. But it could accelerate faster than that. It all depends on, I mean, if it's reaching as far south and all that stuff now, it's not going to take long at all. So yeah, there's plenty of incentive there for a lot of people to get involved. But aside from that, other teams, professional teams getting involved, not 100% entirely sure on that yet.
I know the Highlanders have asked me
Yeah.
to have meetings about whether or not they should see how to incorporate esports into their traditional Highlanders brand.
Yeah.
So this is something that teams are looking at, and there's a reason for that, and James has outlined them all. The sponsorship opportunities, the fact that it's a new demographic, the fact that it's a sporting, social activity for people who aren't interested in traditional physical sports participation. They want to use their minds, but they want to socialise and they want to compete and be challenged and all that stuff. Now, I have loads of questions I could ask James, because this is the first time I've actually met him in real life. We normally communicate and do all our business online, like he said. That's the joy of the modern world. Does anyone here have any questions about anything? How James is an entrepreneur, how he started, how it runs, how he learned to do his own marketing, or esports stuff in general? Oh. Okay, who was up first? Yeah.
Do you have any plans of how you're going to drive culture in your franchises going forward?
Yeah, it would be good
Sorry
to
if
get.
that's too hard.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, man. It would be good to get a lot more Kiwi games involved with us, and it's funny you mention that, because our event in Gore last Saturday, we actually had an Invercargill video game developer contact me, and he said, "Oh yeah, is there any chance you could get my game working at your events?" And it's a multiplayer sort of survival game. This Invercargill dude, he's like a solo game development studio guy in Invercargill. He just hooked us up with 25 copies of his game, and it's an incredibly well-made game. You're running through like New Zealand forests and stuff like that, and it's just got that whole New Zealand vibe to it. So it was a really cool opportunity to be playing an Invercargill video game to that kind of quality in Gore. It was a really sort of eye-opening sort of experience, the fact that, you know, things are progressing forward. As for culture, like, are you talking about like, yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Well, they're always going to be my primary values, those initiatives. So whether or not we start our own sort of non-profit foundations to keep putting money into those initiatives, we're going to have to keep the things separate. So I think we could drive a lot of non-profits. Like, we've got old equipment. We're going to be turning over old equipment. I got these 30 old laptops I talked about earlier. I'm thinking about, what am I going to do with them? They'll be better going to kids from struggling households that would need them, better than sitting in my workshop until they just go too dusty to use. So there's always these opportunities to do things like that. But we've got state-of-the-art computers we're taking around to communities that would never dream of being able to get on a computer like that. And it's just a really cool opportunity for them to access technology like that, which is fantastic. But no, really good question, dude. So it's something I'm always going to keep. It's the only reason I do what I do. So I'm going to always be pursuing those initiatives for sure. So I appreciate that question. Yeah, no, we got it. Yeah, sorry. Right, next question.
Okay, so I know a pretty prevalent conversation in eSport right now is like the inclusion of women, and especially in Asia where eSports getting pretty big.
Yeah.
How is New Zealand and like the Esports Federation dealing with that? If that's a conversation at all here, is that something that's not even being looked at?
Absolutely. So in countries where esports is big, is huge, they've got teams coming out of their ears. There are like dedicated female-only teams in Asia and places like that as well. Potentially in the US too. It's all about diversity, having a lot, the mixed bag. But they will have leagues, like you've got like the women's rugby teams here. The same thing will be pretty much applied. This New Zealand Esports Federation is pretty much a regulatory board to make sure esports and the development of esports in New Zealand goes that right direction. So it's pretty much going to follow the same suit as what the rugby and all that stuff is here, but just with esports. So pretty much the situation we're in currently with the esports in New Zealand is that we just need to get it started, get it going, get it roaring, and then we can look at getting those multi-facets out there with different groups and stuff like that. But no, good question. Thanks very much.
Stay mic'd.
Any other
Anyone
questions?
else? Yep. Hands up.
I was just wondering how you'll tackle communities having concerns about physical exercise going into those sports. So if you have too many kids engaged with sitting on a computer, even though there's a lot of social benefits, if it is like counterintuitive to the physical activity of that community.
Yeah. So in the early days, that was questions I was getting asked when I approached the Gore Lions Club about some funding. They said, this is a really fantastic initiative. The only concern we've got is the lack of exercise that these kids are getting. Because it's a 6-hour event, and they're sitting down for 6 hours. And I totally understood that, and I said, yeah, no, don't worry about it, we'll come up with something. Walked out of there thinking, oh God, these kids hate sports. How am I going to get them to run around when they've got video games in front of them? So I took a trip to the warehouse, walked up and down the aisles, tennis rackets, no, rugby balls, oh God, they're not going to be interested in any of this. Got to the Nerf gun aisle, okay, and I thought, right, this is us. So we bought like 40 Nerf guns. We've got a full stack of them when we go around to our events as well. We set up like these, we've made a big obstacle course out of like real estate signage cord flute. So we set up these big Nerf battle obstacle courses right next in conjunction with our gaming events. So they'll do an hour of gaming and they'll do an hour running around with the Nerf guns. So that is, still having the physical sort of exercise involved is a huge thing for us as well, because we want to keep, it's nothing but good vibes going on. That's what we want to keep going ahead. So, great question.
So, with your corps that you got going on, how do you keep so say you have like an event and like that team wants to stay together, do you have like a connective way, like mobile app or some type of way that those people can stay connected while they're doing that type of stuff?
Yeah. So the best bet to keep in touch with everything that's going on is either through me personally or just get involved on our Facebook groups, Facebook pages or Facebook groups. The group, you can have a bit more of a discussion about what's going on. But moving forward, that is something we're definitely going to be looking at developing. Right now, we just got the let's have a fun time on the weekend, make some friends, have a good time. But going forward, we're going to be doing the streaming. We're going to have advertisers that are going to be contributing money for cash prize tournaments. We've even had someone, mention figures in the 10 grand sort of prize money sort of thing, even in our current situation, which is fantastic, from one of our current sponsors. So we will be getting to that stage. We will be looking for serious contenders for that. And I can tell you are pretty halfway interested when we're talking about those kind of numbers, so fantastic. But I think when we start talking about that kind of money, it's going to start attracting some people that consider themselves very, very talented at that sport. And eventually we'll be handpicking the ones across the country to look at, funding sending overseas to participate in something like the European ones and the US tournaments as well. So, yeah, fantastic.
Also, as esports grows more, how would you regulate against modifications on people's laptops and computers and hacking and
like hacks? Yeah. Okay. So
changing the game.
As long as you shut down input, as far as I know, if someone came to one of our events and wanted to put hacks on, as long as the internet's firewalled so they can't go download it, it's a way of getting the hacks onto the computer. So if they can't put something on a USB stick or download anything, they're pretty much out of luck. But hacking is a big issue. There are professional tournaments going that someone gets kicked from the game because they've been busted using hacks during a tournament, during a live stream, and it's embarrassing for everyone involved. But like I say, you get performance-enhancing drugs in current sports now. How do you mitigate that? You just got to do the best you can and provide those barriers to prevent that from happening. So yeah, you just got to do what you can, but you have to be mindful that stuff is sort of going on in order to prevent it. So that's a really great question. Yo.
So how you were saying before with the Nerf guns, you sort of touched on it with the way guns are and the way the world is going now politically, I guess you could say, and you could see it already in Super Rugby with the Crusaders looking to change their name. Yeah. How can you see that sort of affecting you in the future?
Well, it's already affected me. We had a server set up to play PUBG, Fortnite and Apex at that Edge of the World Expo, the day before that Christchurch situation happened. So we had to make a conscious decision to pull any games involving firearms, and we just played Destruction Derby racing games and Chivalry Medieval Warfare was the other one as well. We still had a great time, but like I say, it's starting to hit pretty close to home, these issues that are affecting the political climate in the rest of the world. So that's just something we're going to have to keep, a conscientious effort to mitigate and keep that under control. But yeah, that is a subject that probably requires a big conversation on its own. But that is definitely something we're taking into consideration pretty seriously. But there are games that could probably implement you know, the option, some of the games we do play, you can turn the violence or the blood down. No blood, you know, like I think earlier versions of Counter-Strike, you know, in Counter-Strike you've got the ragdoll physics now. When someone gets a headshot on you, you sort of fly across the room. But in earlier versions of Counter-Strike, they'd basically just put their gun down, I think they crouched on their knees and put their hands up on their head like that. So there was really not much gun violence. There was still banging and crashing going on, but yeah, it was sort of like tag, you're out, you know. Maybe we could look at developing games for esports competitions to that degree.
Okay, well, we are running out of time quickly. That's so many questions. I think that's the most questions anyone's ever asked in any guest lecture I've ever seen. I just want to say I'm really proud of you guys and the questions you've asked, though, because you may not even realize it, but you're already thinking like sports marketers. You've asked questions about participation. You've asked about branding and ethics. You've asked about sponsorship, technology, how you will create fan culture and community, branding and fan culture, and how you will protect your brand and your values. This is basically everything we've taught them. They already know. You can all go home now. Well done. Clap yourselves in the back.
Just real quick too, I gave those pamphlets out. We've got regular multiplayer video gaming events happening in Dunedin. So add us on the Facebook, check out our website. If you know anyone that might be interested in joining us, even you know kids that might be interested in getting involved as well, we do separate events for different ages. So there's an old boys event and ones for the kids early in the day as well.
Please keep a lookout for Dunedin Tech Week, which happens at the end of May. James is bringing all his equipment up to take part in that on the Saturday for teenagers. There'll only be 20 places, but there'll be room to come and view what he's doing, and I'll put information up for you. But if nothing else, that was probably one of the most inspirational entrepreneurs in New Zealand that I've ever listened to in terms of trying to do something new on top of his job that's good for the community, that's good for sports industry. So I think that deserves a clap. But that's just...
Hey, one more thing. If anyone ever wants to get in touch to ask any questions or anything, I strongly encourage you to do so. I've got a lot of time for a lot of people. But opportunities are generally, it's not, have you ever heard the saying, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That has provided, talking to the right people at the right place at the right time, has opened up so many doors for me. You know, you just got to get out there and get annoying people. So
look up Your Corpse on Facebook and you will find James's email address. You can send him a Facebook message. He's quite happy to hear from you guys. Off you go. Have a great week.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. No worries, man.